Hi everyone, say hi to Flossie before we talk about serious stuff. This is all about pricing. There's a lot of confusion about pricing and I'm going to get a little bit technical. I'm going to explain a little about the two pricing documents that dropped last week and explain how those prices are a completely different thing than the cuts that you've been hearing about for social, community and civic participation. That's the stuff in the proposed bill, which is separate again to any cuts that you might already be seeing in your budgets right now. So first, last week, the NDIA dropped two pricing related and linked documents. The first was the annual pricing review, which is 186 pages, I don't want a tonguey, of government looking at whether the current price limits still reflect the real cost of delivering supports and whether NDIS prices are in line with what other systems pay, stuff like Medicare, DVA, etc. for the same services. It also looks at cost models, which theoretically look at the on-cost of delivering those services, like work cover, long service leave, training, administration, recruitment, equipment, etc. And it doesn't have a cost model for support coordination, surprise, surprise. So it relied on its data for the 7th year straight, saying that we don't get a rise because there's still plenty of people delivering support coordination and that there's no equivalent role in other systems to compare to, which is of course Codswallop, because case managers under South Australia's Transport Accident Commission are funded around $120 an hour and other systems fund it significantly higher than that. Anywho, from there, the document recommends what it thinks are appropriate, necessary changes to pricing and pricing rules. That document talked about, for example, how support worker rates are tied to and go up with the Fair Work ruling. So in the most recent pricing schedule, which I'll get to in a second, that's all gone up by about just under 5% across the board. It also said that psychologists in the NDIS were underfunded by industry standards, so their price limits went up by about $20 an hour. So the other document was a new truncated, that's a big jargon word, a new smaller version of what we first knew as the price guide, then it became the pricing arrangements and pricing limits documents. Those things listed the actual price caps and explained how to apply the limits. Last year's document was 103 pages, and then there were extra documents and spreadsheets for assistive tech, specialist disability accommodation, and other big, huge Excel spreadsheets. The new version that we got last week, which goes into effect on Wednesday, July 1st, is called the NDIS pricing schedule. It doesn't include any of the descriptions which explain how to use it. It just has 99 pages of tables of prices, and it includes that assistive tech pricing. FYI, apparently we need to refer to the current old pricing arrangements document to understand how the pricing schedule applies. Wouldn't it have been nice if the schedule said that? Well, maybe it did and I just missed it. Anyway, the third part to pricing changes, not to be confused with the other two, which is not confirmed yet, is in the NDIS bill. So if that bill is passed without any amendments, which I think is unlikely but might happen, that now will not be able to happen until August at the earliest, right? If that happens, then new and renewed plans that are newly done, reassessed or renewed, like rolled over from October 1st, they'll show your full social, community, civic participation budgets as your full, reasonable and necessary amount. But, big but, only half of that funding will be available to participants to spend. So be aware, however, that many people's social, community participation budgets are already being cut anyway, and the 50% cut will be after any cut that is happening in the meantime or that happens as part of your reasonable and necessary decision. So, a bit rough. Going back to the pricing review released last week, it recommended a separate and unrelated 10% cap or cut to the price cap for unregistered providers of social community participation. That means that if the bill passes and the minister goes by the recommendations in that pricing review, people who are plan managed will only be able to claim up to $66.22 per weekday hour for social community participation for unregistered providers. That will likely only affect plan managed participants, as plan managers will, if the recommendation is acted on, they will reject invoices from unregistered providers for social and community participation that are more than that $66.22 per hour, because that's 90% of the new rate in the pricing schedule for support workers, which is $73 something, I think. So self-managed participants would still be able to claim above the price guide. This does, of course, mean that self-managers funds might not go as far if you pay a higher rate per hour, but that's not a change. That's always been the case. So yes, if you're plan managed and you use an unregistered community participation provider, I suspect your NDIS funds will kind of go further. There are 3 ways the agency could deal with this. If indeed the agency or the minister, if the bill passes in its current form, decide to drop that provider's price limit by 10% for unregistered providers. I'll explain that detail live on Wednesday. I'm doing a 1.5 hour peer session. It's only $25 because I just really want to get the information out there, but I've put a lot of effort into putting it together. Check out the event pages to book. I expect it's going to be a pretty full-on session because I'm going to cover all of these things that I've just done now, but also I'm going to cover the big changes to short-term accommodation or respite. They're flip-flopping on that as well. Anyway, lots to come. Hope I can see you on Wednesday. Thanks for listening. Hope this has been helpful. Bye.